All right. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, fight fans. Last night, the great Claressa Shields won her fight over Danielle Perkins and became the undisputed heavyweight champion, the first in women's boxing history. I got to start by saying, like a lot of you, I had Shields winning that fight, but I had her by unanimous decision. I did not think she would knock Perkins out. And to be honest, after I saw Perkins on the scale, I did not see a knockout come, especially after the reports that she rehydrates up into the 190s. Before we get into everything else, let me start with my pros and my cons. First, the let's start with Danielle Perkins. The pros would be uh, she at least tried to establish somewhat of a jab, and she tries to put some type of pressure on Claressa Shields. She stayed on the front foot a lot. I think trying to put some pressure on her. That's probably all I have for the pros. As for the cons, she definitely did not throw enough punches. As big as she is, as tall as she is, she's 4 inches taller. She kept squatting, and Clarissa already was squatting and getting lower. Danielle could have used her height and used her jab to keep her at bay. She did not do that, and she could have been a little more aggressive. She was aggressive in her approach of like kind of stalking in a way, but she wasn't aggressive in the approach of offense. As for Clarissa Shields, the pros would be she said that she tore her labrum, so she wasn't throwing a lot of jabs, which that was noticeable. I didn't think that she was hurt, that was the reason why, but it was noticeable that she was not throwing a lot of jabs. She did a good job, I thought, of trying to get inside and throwing the overhand right. I did like her being aggressive, even though it's going to be kind of a con, but I did like her being aggressive, trying to land that right hand on the chin, trying to get the knockout, trying to show that at the heavier weight, she actually does have power, unlike she did at 168, 160, or 154. I did like her defense. She did have a good amount of head movement and her in the hand and foot speed. She just had way too much hand and foot speed. As for the cons, the only real con I had for Shields is that she was pressing too much for the knockout. You can just tell, fighting in front of her hometown, crowd. She wanted the knockout, and she was throwing a lot of wild shots trying to get the knockout. Now, let's be fair. Some of those shots looked wild because Perkins is so tall. She's tall and she's long and she's a southpaw. So you got to understand, from where Perkins' chin is to where Clarissa's right hand is when it's back by her chin. That's a long distance. So she kind of has to lunge in and throw the shots. But I didn't like that. I thought that she was pressing a little bit. Let's talk about the fight. It was just total dominance to me. I think that she won all 10 rounds. I thought that good ring generalship. Shout out to Harold Letterman. I thought that she did a good job establishing her power, and she was going to the body. She figured out that if she start going to the body, that Perkins' chin would come forward. In the 10th round, we did finally get a knockdown. Maybe if there was another minute in the fight, she could have got the knockout, but that was a hard shot that she landed on her chin. And that was a hard shot because Perkins' eyes rolled in the back of her head before she bent at the knees and her gloves touched the canvas. She was hurt. Like she probably was. She was definitely another hard shot from being knocked out. But lucky for her, she was able to get back up and walk to the corner. And by the time the ref gave her the count and cleaned her gloves off, the bell rang and the fight's over. And Claressa Shields is now the undisputed heavyweight champion. So let's talk about what happens from here. Let's start with Danielle Perkins. I think that Danielle Perkins I think that there's other fights for her out there. I didn't like the fact that she wasn't aggressive, but I think that if she's a little more aggressive, she can probably win some fights. To be honest, some of the people who she was called out, who she wanted to fight, I would actually like to see those women fight Perkins. I would like to see Shields say, "Hey, Danielle was a tough fight. She's a tough, strong fighter," which Shields called her very strong at the end of the fight. Let's see some of these girls fight them, just like Canelo did. Remember, couple 2 years ago when Canelo was saying, you had the Charlo brothers and Benavidez, and you had all these guys calling him out, and he said, "Why don't these guys fight each other? They all say they want to fight me. Why don't they fight each other?" That would be a possibility to I mean, that would be nice to see Danielle Perkins get another fight, another big high profile fight. But I guess we'll just see how that go. But I want to show you all something. I'm over here on BoxRec, and I want to talk about before I talk about what Claressa said at the end of the fight. Now, look, if you could see, look at my screen right here on BoxRec. This is the heavyweight division. I actually looked at this a month ago. The sad part about this is that there are only 17 fighters, 17 women who are registered in the entire world as heavyweights. And for the women, any just like the old days with the men back in the 70s and before that time, anything over 175 is considered heavyweight because there are no women cruiserweights. So they go super middle to light heavy, straight to heavyweight. Now, there is an interesting fighter on here. I was looking through these women, and I'm gonna be very honest. None of these names stand out to me. But what I did want to look at was right here at number 2, Maniles Blanco. She's 6-0. Let's pull her up. She's 6-0, 6 KOs. So she's knocked out every fighter that they put in front of her. These are the things that stood out to me why this could be a future fight, a future opponent for Claressa Shields if she stays at heavyweight. This woman is 23 years old. So unlike a lot of these fighters who are older, like Danielle Perkins was 42, this woman is 23 years old. And look at her record right here. 6-0. You see, she won all her fights by knockout. But this is the thing that stands out to me that I think would be a challenge to Claressa Shields. I want you to look at what Miss Blanco weighed in at in her fight. Her very first pro fight in August of 2023, she was 227 pounds, and she fought a woman who was 218. Her next fight, she came down just a little. She was 225. That was a month later. And then in October of 2023, she was 221. She fought again in December of 23. She was 218. And then she came way down for some reason in June of 2024, where she was 205 and a half. And then she fought again in August of 2024, where she was 219. So why am I bringing that up about Manilis Blanco? Is because she's young and she's a big woman. So if Claressa Shields wants a challenge, she talks about challenges. This would be a challenge. Maybe not right now, but maybe next year after Blanco gets another 3 fights under her belt. But this would be a good challenge. I mean, this is a big, solid woman, 6 wins, all by knockout, and she looks like she's somewhere in that 220 range. So if you think that Danielle Perkins, made her look small, this would be definitely a David and Goliath type of thing, if you will. But let's finish this up by talking about what happens next for Claressa Shields. At the end of the fight, they asked her what she wanted to do, and to our surprise, she actually named some fighters. She actually named 5 fighters that she said she wants to fight. First of all, she says she wants to fight 2 more times this year, and these are the names she mentioned. She mentioned super middleweight champion Franchon Cruz Dezern. She mentioned Savannah Marshall. She mentioned Hannah Gabriels, and then she mentioned Chris Cyborg and Layla Ali if they wanted to fight. So let's go over those 5 fights real quick. The Cruz Dezern fight should be an easy fight to make. They both would want that fight. Franchon has said that she wants that rematch, and it should be an easy fight to make. Hannah Gabriel should be another easy fight to make. Hannah, if I'm not mistaken, has not fought in a while, probably in a couple of years. I know her and Shields was supposed to fight, but that fight fell through. But I think that would be an easy fight to make. And then she mentioned Savannah Marshall, another fight that I think would be easy to make. Savannah has already said that she would like to come up to heavyweight and fight Claressa. But as I mentioned earlier, I would like to see Cruz and Cruz Dezern and Marshall recently fought, but I would like to see one of them fight Danielle Perkins. I think that would be a nice test at heavyweight to see them fight with no weight limit, no 180-pound weight limit. Let's just see them get right in there and fight. But then she mentioned Chris Cyborg. Now, there's been a lot of back and forth with her and Cyborg over the last few years. That could be a possibility of a fight. And then last, she mentioned Layla Ali. If I'm not mistaken, Layla Ali is 47 years old, and she hasn't fought since 2007 or 2008. So if I'm correct, and if it's let's just say it was 2007. You're talking knocking on 18 years. This woman hasn't fought. She hasn't fought and knocking on 18 years. Yes, in that interview recently with Andre Ward, she did look like she was still in pretty good shape. She's, she still looked nice, but is she in fighting shape? Could she really come out of retirement after knocking on 20 years and take on a young fighter like Shields? But fight fans, what do you think? Out of those 5 fights, she says she wants to fight 2 more times this year. So which 2 would you want to see this year? And do you maybe want to see her fight all 5 of those fights? And if not those, what about the young lady Blanco who I mentioned? What do you think about Shields, being a heavyweight fighting a really, real big heavyweight? All right. If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so we can keep talking boxing. Just give me your thoughts on Shields, Perkins, and anything else related to this fight. Other than that, that's all I got for this one. I'll let y'all later.